I'll tell you a story of a fellow named Ike in the state of Kentucky in the county of Pike. He courted sweet Betsy, but she couldn't be still, so they up and got married like young people will. They went to Missouri where they settled down in a cozy log cabin a long way from town, with a fine yoke of cattle and an old yeller dog, a long-legged rooster and a big spotted hog. One evening the old brindled cow had a calf, and the big spotted hog had 10 pigs and a half. The old yeller dog puppied under the door, and the long-legged rooster laid an egg on the floor. Ike stayed up all night till the break of the morn. Then he went to tell Betsy about the newborn. She said, "Take a look in the big feather bed. There's a spanking new baby, and I think he's well fed." In just a few years Ike had dozens of cows, hundreds of hogs, and too many bow wows, a yard full of chickens and a house full of boys, and he said that sweet Betsy was the pride of his joy. We'll always remember sweet Betsy from Pike. She came from Kentucky with a fellow named Ike, with a fine yoke of cattle and an old yeller dog, a long-legged rooster and a big spotted hog. Howdy folks, and a great big welcome to each and every one of you. Well, that song that I just sang is called Sweet Betsy from Pike, and it shows up in a lot of old western movies. Guys are riding by themselves through the wilderness and they're humming or singing this song to themselves. I searched far and wide to find a slightly more wholesome version of that song, because most of the ones that you hear nowadays talk about divorce and husbands fighting with wives and vice versa, and just not a very good picture of what a marriage should be like. But Jimmy Driftwood had a terrific version. Somewhat silly, but it was a silly song, but it's still quite a wholesome wholesome song compared to the other versions. At any rate, I hope you enjoyed the song. What I would like to do now is a little Bible reading about marriage. So for those of you folks who aren't interested in a Bible reading and don't want to hear one, shut the video off now and end it now, and I'll say adios. Thanks for watching. For those of you who are hanging on, I found a few verses that speak about marriage both in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. In Genesis chapter 2, then the Lord God said, "It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helper fit for him." And then later on in the second chapter of Genesis, it says, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." And then we jump over to Hebrews chapter 13, verse 4. "Let marriage be held in honor among all, and let the marriage bed be undefiled, for God will judge the sexually immoral and adulterous." And in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 2, "But because of the temptation to sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife, and each woman her own husband." Well, here's a good one in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 22. "He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord." And another one from Proverbs chapter 21, verse 9. "It is better to live in a corner of the housetop than in a house shared with a quarrelsome wife." 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. "Likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel, since they are heirs with you of the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered." And then back to Proverbs chapter 19, verse 14. "House and wealth are inherited from fathers, but a prudent wife is from the Lord." And the last one I found was in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25. It says, "Husbands, love your wives, as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." And there's several other verses. I didn't bother, I just printed all of these out on a piece of paper because I didn't want to be flipping back and forth in the Bible, scattered all through the Bible. And God intended for marriage to be an example of how he loves the church. And when we are resurrected and go to heaven, he talks about it as being a wedding banquet between himself and the church. So there's great hope in good marriage. There's great hope in going to heaven and actually seeing Jesus and God and all of the folks there in the flesh. It's going to be quite the thing. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the Bible verses about marriage. If you have any comments, please leave them in the section down below. I'll try to answer as best as I can. Otherwise, hope you enjoyed the song. I hope you enjoyed the Bible reading, and I'll say God bless, and we'll see you down the road.